Yeah, I'm gonna take my horse through the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. I'm gonna take my horse through the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more.
I got the horses in the back, horse stock is attached. Head is matted black, got the bushes black to match. Riding on a horse, you can whip your Porsche. I've been in the valley, you can't nobody tell me nothing. Nobody tell me.
To the 11-yard line. There's the snap. Mahomes running to his right. Look out. He may run. Mahomes directed. No, throw the end down. Batted, intercepted. Picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world, and we still have a minute 33 to go. Devin White, what a great second season. The All-American from LSU. Rookie of the year a year ago. And White, 13 tackles, 4 assists, 9 solos, and a pick in the end zone. That's it for KC. Bucs are the Super Bowl champs. They can't stop the clock. There will be no repeat. The kingdom will go home sad. And the Buccaneer nation will celebrate. And I want to hear cannons.
We do.
I want to hear cannons.
For sure.
And I think we are going to hear cannons. If I got to do the boom, boom, boom myself. Bucs win. Bucs win. Bucs win the Super Bowl 55. Tom Brady engineers the offense. The Buccaneers score late in the first half, early in the second half, and there the cannons come. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them. How about the Buccaneers, huh? 7-5.
Yes, sir. The cannons were fired indeed. Congratulations to the 2021 Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What a game last night. We are here to break it all down for you. Welcome into episode 54 of Wild Sports Talk here on this Monday night. My name is Isaiah Leung, joining you from Fremont, California. I got my guys, Jonathan Mathis from Southern California, and also Sammy Sharp joining us from Cleveland, Ohio tonight. First of all, Jonathan, my man, how was your Super Bowl Sunday, and how are you doing today?
Hey, you know what, guys? How you guys doing? Super Bowl Sunday was pleasant. Even though the game didn't live up to hype, it was a disappointing game all the way around. I mean, it was historic, and now we can say that Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. I think that argument has been settled. I think the debate is over. And no more will we debate about it. Tom Brady is arguably the greatest of all time. So I thought the game was boring and not what we thought it would be. There was a lot of memories that were made in this game thanks to Tom Brady, and also what the Bucs did on defense, which was very impressive.
Yeah, there was a lot of memories indeed. We're going to break it down for you guys here on tonight's show. But Sammy, before we get into, the Super Bowl talk, how was your Super Bowl Sunday, man? And how are you doing on this Monday night?
I'm doing very well this Monday night, chilling. I really didn't have too much of a Super Bowl party. I had to work the next day, so couldn't go all out, go crazy.
Yeah, man. Great to hear, man. And I didn't really have that big of a Super Bowl party either because, the whole COVID-19 pandemic and all the rules that are going on right now. All basically what I just did was just stay home, watch the game at home, and eat a couple of burgers at home. So that's basically what we did. It was kind of a scaled down Super Bowl party, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people across the United States basically was doing the same thing. But ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the show, feel free to fire, any comments that you guys have for us, any questions that you guys have for us in the comment section, and we will do our best to read them on the show. But as we played it for you in the beginning, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeat the Kansas City Chiefs 31-9 in Super Bowl 55. Tom Brady wins his 7th Super Bowl. He also wins his 5th Super Bowl MVP honor. Tom Brady in this football game was 21 of 29 for 201 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. But the biggest story in this football game was not the offense, which we originally thought coming in it would be the case. It was the defense that showed up and showed out in this football game. The Tampa Bay defense was absolutely suffocating in this football game. But John, I'm going to start with you on this first topic. What was your reaction to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers destroying the Kansas City Chiefs 31-9 to capture their 2nd Super Bowl championship?
Well, you know, first and foremost, I'm going to start off by saying this was a very diverse Buccaneers team. You had 2 women on the coaching staff. You had, African-American coordinators, offensive coordinator Brian Leftwich, Todd Burrows, defensive coordinator, who did a good job game planning for Patrick Mahomes. They prepared for this. They were ready for this. They came at Patrick Mahomes, and they took him out of the game early. Patrick Mahomes was repeatedly under duress. He couldn't, escape the pocket. He couldn't really elude the pressure. Every time defenders would come at him, he had to let go. He would run out of real estate. And, this wasn't the quarterback that we are accustomed to seeing. He was a quarterback who was completely, under a lot of, just pressure and really couldn't get off a throw. He didn't have time to get off a quick release. He couldn't really buy time. He has the speed. He has the nippy footwork. He has the attributes, and he has the intangibles of a quarterback. But again, you got to give a lot of credit to Todd Burrows because he game plan for this. And then you saw Shaquille Barrett put his bills on and get to the quarterback. He harassed Patrick Mahomes all night, made it very difficult for him. Patrick Mahomes was running for his life. Was trying to find an open receiver, couldn't because the defense just completely shut him down. They locked him down. They made life miserable on Super Bowl Sunday for him. And now everyone is saying that Patrick Mahomes is not the baby goat. Look, everyone calm down. He's still young. He's 25 years old. You got to give a lot of credit to this Bucs defense. The Bucs defense was good. Devin White was all over the place. He was flying all over the field. He's one of the, top flight linebackers in this league, along with Shaquille Barrett. And what we saw from those 2 guys, man, they swallowed him up. They bottled up Patrick Mahomes, and they were able to get to him. They put the pressure on him. They rushed him and didn't give him time to make anything happen. So the defense was stellar. The defense was on its game. And then on the other side of the ball, on offense, you have, of course, Tom Brady, the veteran quarterback. There has been much dialogue, about Tom Brady being the GOAT. And I think he solidified his status yesterday by winning his 7th Super Bowl title. He was simply brilliant. Once again, he is the greatest quarterback of all time. He went 21. He was 21 of 29 passing for 201 yards, and then he had 3 touchdowns. We can say that the greatest football player ever, arguably the greatest football player ever, wasn't ready to pass the torch, guys. He wasn't ready to pass the torch to, maybe go Patrick Mahomes. He's not done yet, and I think he'll come back next year to try to run it back. He's arguably the greatest team athlete in American sports history. We can also make that claim as well. He, further cemented his legacy on football's biggest stage. And I mean, he was just spectacular. He continues to add to his resume as the game's most decorated player. So I think it's fair to say now that Tom Brady is the greatest of all time. Now, if you want to say that he's the greatest player in American sports history, that's huge because you got a lot of players who are just as gifted as him. We're talking about players from other leagues, from other professional sports, like Michael Jordan, Babe Ruth, the list goes on. Derek Jeter. You have these guys in other sports as well. You can argue that Joe Montana is up there on the list with him. But from what we saw yesterday, it was a guy who took his talents to another team and, had to get acclimated to a new system, to a new roster, to a new coaching staff, and had to learn on the fly, had to adjust to a new surrounding and everything, and he did it all his first year, guys. That's what's so impressive. He left New England, and he proved to everybody yesterday that he could win without Bill Belichick. So it doesn't matter where Brady goes, because wherever he goes, he elevates everyone around him because he's great. He's the greatest, And great players like him can make everyone around them better. He can, make everyone have this desire to want to win. And I think that's what he did when he arrived to Tampa Bay. And then Rob Gronkowski came out of retirement, joined him in New England. He had 2 catches yesterday. And then how about Antonio Brown? A lot of people, I think this is in Sammy's backyard in Pennsylvania. He was, a diva, a prima donna in Pittsburgh. Going out there, didn't work out with other teams, didn't work out with the Raiders, didn't work out with New England, had the helmet situation. And look where he ended up. He ended up with Tom Brady, and he won a Super Bowl, and he had a catch in that game for a touchdown. Then you had Leonard Fournette, who was once a workhorse in Jacksonville, who had a rushing touchdown. I mean, this was a total team effort, guys. It wasn't just Tom Brady. But, of course, the spotlight's going to shine on Tom Brady for who he is, because he gets that royal treatment, because he has earned the right to get that royal treatment. He is well deserving of being considered their.
Excellent points, John. Great win by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like John mentioned, it was an all-around effort from the offense, the defense, and special teams that helped Tampa Bay and propelled them to the Super Bowl title. But Sammy, I'm going to go to you. I know you had some gripes about the officiating in this game. What were your thoughts on the Buccaneers beating the Chiefs 31-9 to win Super Bowl 55?
Well, first things first, everyone, or not everyone, but I graduated with, but I went to high school with Jordan Whitehead. He's a starting safety for the Buccaneers. I'm truly jealous because this dude, gets to go to work and goes to work with Antonio Brown, LaShawn McCoy, Ndamukong Suh, Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, and Mike Evans, who are all going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. And then he also has Leonard Fournette, who's going to be in the College Football Hall of Fame one day. So I just want to say congratulations to Jordan Whitehead. Next thing, going into the game, we had the big problems with KC's depth on the offensive line, and outside of Mecole Hardman and Tyreek Hill, who were the main options in the receiving core. I mean, obviously Travis Kelce, but I'm just talking about receiving here, wide receivers. So that was another big question that the Kansas City would have to answer this game. Tampa Bay, they had questions on defense and if Brady was going to show up. And, Tampa Bay, all they did was they dropped back 7 players in coverage and they rushed 4 players. And with 4 players, if you can blitz the quarterback legitimately and get to the quarterback efficiently as Tampa Bay did, you don't have to worry about really how the rest of the defense is going to work because it's going to handle itself. They rushed him 29 times, which is a Super Bowl record, and it made Patrick Mahomes have to make tough throws time and time again. You look at Patrick Mahomes' stat line, he's 26 for 49. 13 of those passes are probably throwaways or drop passes. And there was plays that Patrick Mahomes had where he would be middle of getting tackled, running back 30 yards, in the middle of getting sacked, throw it up, and somehow it hits the receiver's hands, and the receiver doesn't come down with the ball. It happened twice on back-to-back plays in the start of the fourth quarter. It's you can't make the players catch. Patrick Mahomes did everything but have the receivers catch the football. I think if Patrick Mahomes had players around him that would be able to catch those footballs, this game would have been completely different. Another thing is about the Super Bowl is where do we go from here for these two teams? Where does Tampa Bay? How does Tampa Bay fill out this roster? How does Kansas City continue to, build around Patrick Mahomes? Do they even answer the questions on defense? Because the defense was middle of the road at best, and about the Brady being the GOAT, Brady really didn't wow me last night. What wowed me last night was some baloney calls. I know Isaiah has a clip for Mike Evans, a pass interference. I was watching that play live, and I thought it was a throwaway. And they called a pass interference on Tyrann Mathieu on a pass that's a throwaway. If the ball is not catchable, you don't call pass interference at all. Unless the dude's Michael Jordan from Space Jam, that ball is not catchable. And then as far as the Bucs, as long as Tom Brady comes back, most of these players, they'll come back with Tom Brady. And I think Tom Brady, and they'll probably try to run it back and go for a second ring. And I think there's a legitimate chance of that. A lot of these players took pay cuts. Leonard Fournette could have went a lot of other places, but took a pay cut to come to Tampa Bay. And I'm sure he'll do the same. I'm sure, AB will do the same just to play with Tom Brady again. And that's what I feel about the Super Bowl,
Yeah, this is the video that Sammy was mentioning in his take. Let's play it real quick.
Communication and learning each other and what they do best.
3rd and 4. Ball deflected, tipped, and who else but Tyrann Mathieu has another interception. There is a marker down in the secondary.
Well, and this is what we talk about. Matthew's 6 interceptions. Should have had a 7, but this is coming back. This is going to be a hold on the defense of Kansas City outside. And it's going to be on 35, Ward, who's covering Evans.
Pass, holding, number 35. Defense, 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Mathieu had 6 picks in the regular season, already with 1 in the postseason. Thought he had another one.
Well, watch the bottom of your screen right there. He's coming out of it, and he just holds him right there. And that's going to get called because there's a line judge right there watching. Look at the hands. It's just too aggressive. And he does.
Coming after him. Has to throw it over the head. They got another flag, and this one's on Mathieu. That'll set the ball at the 1-yard line.
No, this one's a penalty. I mean, they get caught because Brady's taking advantage.
Number 32, defense. That penalty occurred in the end zone. We'll place the ball at the 1-yard line. 1st and goal.
Brady can't take the sack. He knows it. He finds Mathieu one-on-one, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's uncatchable. But I think that's still a penalty down there because it's pass interference.
Ball at the 1. No timeouts.
So, John and Sammy, before I give my reaction to the Super Bowl, you guys saw those 2 clips right there. What were your guys' takes on those calls by the officials? Do you guys
Isaiah, I just read the rule book. I did this at work, and I was looking at it, and I just watched that Mike Evans play all over again, okay? So that's – I was watching that very closely. You cannot say that Mike Evans was not pushing off of the Ward because he clearly was. So I would say that evens out the hold. But then there's people saying, well, he put his arms around him. By rule, he's allowed to do that. Tom Brady threw the ball by the time that he was putting his arms around him. That was a play on the ball. That is a legal play in the NFL. And that's just a baloney right there.
John, what were your thoughts on those flags? Do you think they were the right calls by the officials?
You know, there were a lot of inconsistencies in this game. And, you know, the refs are human. I get it. But you know what? You got to be a little bit more consistent with your penalty calls and your you know, the no calls and when to throw the flag. You know, I think the refs could have swallowed some of those whistles. You know, you see that one clip right there, Tyrann Mathieu's reaction. He was furious. He was upset. You know, he didn't feel that was a what they call it on a pass interference. You know, I think right there the Bucs might have caught the break. You know, but I mean, you know what? You never want to see a team win based on technicality. You know, and I go back to saying if a team wants it bad enough, they can put themselves in a position to allow the refs to decide the outcome of the game. You know, but yes, there was a lot of inconsistencies in the game. You know, sometimes calls don't go the way you want them to go.
Yeah, excellent point, fellas. And well, for me, my thoughts on this game is, you know, I was extremely stunned by the outcome of this game because I thought that I think a lot of people coming into this game thought like me, and that was they thought that it would be like the 2017 Super Bowl between the Patriots and the Eagles, where it was a back and forth type of game, offensive shootout, and it would come down to who made that one crucial defensive stop at the end to help seal that Super Bowl. And, you know, I really thought that was how this game was going to turn out, but you got to give major props to that Tampa Bay defense. You know, I called them out after their playoff win against the Washington football team 3 weeks ago, and I said that, you know, they were atrocious in that football game. They were horrendous, and if Tampa Bay wanted to go anywhere this postseason, their path this postseason wasn't going to be determined based on how Tom Brady and that offense played. It was going to be determined by how well that defense played. Because, you know, you can have Tom Brady and that Buccaneers offense play amazing, but you can still lose if the defense plays terrible. So I thought that this defense, they had to show up, and you know, after that, the defense, they really responded and they really answered the bell by having an amazing performance against Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints in the New Orleans Superdome. Then they go into Lambeau Field in the NFC Championship game and they stuff Aaron Rodgers and that Packers high-flying offense. And then in the Super Bowl, they make Patrick Mahomes look like the second coming of C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins this season and just absolutely suffocated that Kansas City Chiefs offense that was the best in the NFL and looked absolutely unbeatable throughout the entire season and the playoffs before the Super Bowl. So you got to give a lot of credit to Todd Bowles, who devised an amazing game plan. He brought pressure all game long against Patrick Mahomes, and he doubled Travis Kelce, he doubled Tyreek Hill, and he made other guys on the Kansas City offense beat them. And the Kansas City other receivers like Sammy Watkins and Demarcus Robinson, they couldn't beat those Tampa Bay cornerbacks and safeties. So that was an excellent game plan devised by Todd Bowles. You also got to give a lot of credit to the two edge rushers for Tampa Bay, Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul. You know, I said on No BS, I believe it was Friday, that the two guys that were my X factors coming into this football game, if Tampa Bay wanted to win, was the two pass rushers, Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett. I said that those two guys had got to wreak havoc all game long against that Kansas City Chiefs offensive line, which was extremely weakened by not having their two offensive tackles in Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz coming into this game because of injuries. I said that was going to be a major issue for the Kansas City Chiefs. And Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul, they did their thing. They dominated, they wreaked havoc, and they made Patrick Mahomes run for his life all game long, and they gave him very, very little time to throw the football. And then you go to the offensive side of the ball. You know, Kansas City's defense, we know they've been playing bend, don't break style of defense all year long. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can only play bend, don't break so much before you eventually break and get exposed for that weak defense that you are. And that's exactly what happened in this football game. Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich, the Buccaneers offensive coordinator, they diced up that defense into pieces with screen passes to Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, and Cameron Brate. And also when the Chiefs covered up the screens, they ran the football with Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, and then when the Chiefs put 8 or 9 guys into the box to try to stop Fournette and stop Ronald Jones and to stop the screen passes, what did Tampa Bay do? They go deep with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So just a great game plan all around by the two coordinators, Byron Leftwich, Todd Bowles, Bruce Arians, I'm pretty sure had a major hand in the offensive game planning as well. But congratulations to Tampa Bay on this win. But if you're the Chiefs, man, I really don't know what Andy Reid was doing. Some of the decision-making by Andy Reid was really questionable, especially the timeouts, late in the second quarter that I think it was 3rd and 2. Buccaneers have the football, and Andy Reid, for some reason, calls a timeout instead of letting the clock run and, getting the – yeah, John, go ahead.
You have to be a bit compassionate because he's not mentally all there right now. His son, was hospitalized, I believe, after that horrific car crash that left a child injured and then another one in critical, I believe, if I got the story right. So, there's a lot going on in Andy Reid's personal life right now. So I don't think his mind was really in coaching, even though he was there for his team and his players.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I don't think his mind was really into the game, given what happened a couple of days ago with his son and that horrific car accident that his son got into. But, you look at that decision and then you look at, some of the offensive game planning. Like, I know Tampa Bay, they weren't giving Mahomes and that Chiefs passing attack any time to throw the football, but why not run the ball? Like, I don't understand. I think if I'm reading this correctly, Tampa or Kansas City, they only ran the football. What, 5 times in this football game? Like, I believe you should run the football more to try to neutralize that pass rush. But hey, it is what it is. Congratulations to Tampa Bay on winning the Super Bowl. And hopefully next year, Tom Brady and this Buccaneers team, they're going to be loaded again, and they're going to try to repeat again in Super Bowl 56. But going into our comments section, we got a lot of comments, man. We got Joseph Priestley commenting, world champs, Tampa Bay, let's go. Joseph also says 4 quarters of domination. Totally agree with you on that, Joseph. James Gonzalez says, hi, everybody. What's up, James? Hopefully you are doing well, my man. James also says the Chiefs were so disappointing. No Patrick Mahomes running for his life. No Eric Fisher. Really hurt for Kansas City. Game balls for all of the players for Tampa Bay's defense. Pure domination. Oh, by the way, another player that I forgot to mention when I was talking about the Tampa Bay defense, Devin White. I mean, this guy is going to be one of the best. He's already one of the best linebackers in all of football, but he may be the best linebacker in football next season because this guy was all over the place. He was running from left to right, right to left. The guy was so fast. He was just tremendous in this game. And I think he was, ever since he's come back from injury in the Saints game and in the Packers game and in the Chiefs game, his presence has been mightily felt by that Tampa Bay defense, and they've really benefited from his return. James also says, I went to 2 safe parties, had my share of drinks and food. The game after a while was an afterthought. Ha ha, totally agree with that. James also says he's happy for Mike Evans. Joseph says the Chiefs, they hold every game. The referees finally called them out on their BS. Joseph, I really wish that we had these refs last year in the Super Bowl because who knows, if we did, I think my 49ers would have won our 6th Lombardi trophy. Joseph also says Tom Brady is already signed for another year. Let's see. James Gonzalez comes in and says there were so many tipped passes by that Tampa Bay defense. And Casey King comes in and says, hi, guys, and Bucks dominate this game. No brainer. Joseph says number 45 is the truth. Casey says Chiefs offense really went Higgins last night. And Casey also says Brady is definitely the GOAT. But let's segue actually into our second topic and talk about the losing team for a bit here. You know, Patrick Mahomes coming into this game, a lot of people thought that if Mahomes won this game, that it would be the passing of the torch from Brady to Mahomes. But obviously Brady says, not, you have to wait a bit longer, kid. This is not your time. It is still my time at being the GOAT. John, I'm going to start with you on this. How damaging was this loss for Patrick Mahomes' legacy, and how many Super Bowls now do you think that Patrick Mahomes will have to win in order to eventually eclipse Tom Brady?
You know, I understand all the comparisons because he has the potential to be one of the greatest of all time, just like Tom Brady. But that kid Brady is still young, you know. It's his third or fourth year in the league. You know, he has a lot of game left. He'll be back. He'll be in both Super Bowls. As I said last night, Patrick Mahomes has already lost into a superstar. He's ahead of his time. He really is. He's accomplished so much. He has achieved so many personal accolades early on in his young career. That is ridiculous. It's amazing what he has been able to accomplish in such a short time. So I think people need to step back a bit, calm down, don't make such a big deal out of one loss. You know, the Chiefs, they didn't have a great game. Patrick Mahomes didn't look like the baby goat at all. Again, you got to credit that type of defense. They were able to, like you said, create havoc, make it very difficult for him to get throw off. So I mean, you know, Patrick Mahomes will be all right. I don't think this hurts his legacy at all. I think he's just getting started, and he'll be around for many years to come if he stays up. There's a reason the Chiefs pay this man billion. They have a lot of confidence in him. They have a lot of faith. They know what he can bring to the Chiefs organization. And they know that he is a once in a generation talent. He really is. He's won a Super Bowl last year. He still can win multiple Super Bowl titles. And I think this Chiefs team, with all the offensive weapons that he has around him, they can really, you know, embark on a dynasty in the coming years. You know, Tom Brady is still around. Tom Brady is going to try to run it back next year. Don't be surprised if you see two teams in the league next year's Super Bowl. Yeah.
Well said, John. Sammy, I'm going to go to you on this question. You know, how damaging was this loss for Patrick Mahomes' legacy, and how many Super Bowls do you think that Mahomes will have to win now that Brady has 7 and Mahomes is still at 1? Or do you think that the discussion of can Mahomes surpass Brady, do you think that that discussion is already over?
Well, I think that based off of what I seen last night, I definitely don't think that he needs to win 7 championships to tie it, because to be the GOAT is to be the greatest of all time. It's not to have the most rings. It's not to have the most this or most that. There's no standard. It's to be the best at your job and set a whole new standard. When I saw it last night, Mahomes was making pass after pass. I mean, when he was throwing it, and while he's getting tackled, he wasn't just throwing it away. He was making legitimate throws that could have been caught. Like, it was great. I was watching a 5-minute compilation earlier today just to relive a little bit of the moments of Super Bowl. And there was probably about 3 or 4 plays that I would say Mahomes in that little 5-minute sequence that I would say, okay, that was a bad throw. Or, okay, I don't know what you're doing now. If you would put any quarterback in Mahomes' shoes, there was no way that they would have done better than him. I do not believe for a minute if you put Brady in that spot with the Chiefs, he does better. He probably gets sacked a lot more times because Mahomes last night got out of about 4 or 5 sacks. Maybe probably in the double digits realistically. He escaped a lot of sacks. As far as, does it damage his legacy? I don't think so. He personally did not perform horribly. The stats say he did, but if you watch the game, he didn't perform bad at all. How many rings does he have to have? I would say, you need more than 4 rings. Joe Montana, he has 4 rings and has never even thrown an interception in the Super Bowl. So he's flawless in that game. And you'd have to, I think, win 5 to elevate yourself from the Montanas, the Terry Bradshaws, from that level of quarterbacks. I'd say 5 for Mahomes and probably 6 or 7 AFC championship games, personally, for me, to put him at the GOAT. And you need more MVPs, personally, in my opinion.
Yeah, well said, Sammy. For me, this loss. Yeah, go ahead, John.
He's on track to do that. With his physical attributes and his incredible skill set, if there's one quarterback that I'm willing to place my money on, that I will put a wager on, it is Patrick Mahomes to accomplish all of that.
Yeah, for me, when we look at this question, how damaging is this loss from Mahomes' legacy, and how many more Super Bowls does he need to, eclipse Tom Brady as the GOAT? I'm going to go with the first part of this. For this loss, I think it's a bit damaging for his legacy because it was a blowout, and with the way that he was played, a lot with the way that this team played in general. I know Mahomes, he did all he can to try to get the Chiefs to win this football game and to avoid so many sacks. But still, a lot of people are going to remember, him and his stats that he had. He only had like under or 200 yards passing. He wasn't that effective the entire game until like the fourth quarter when garbage time came and he put up a bunch of garbage time stats. But I think that it's a bit damaging for his legacy because it was a blowout. If it was a close game, I wouldn't say that it wouldn't matter. But in terms of how many he needs to win to eclipse Tom Brady, I'd say probably like 5 or 6. And you have to have like at least, 7 AFC championship game appearances. Because, Tom Brady, he's got 7, and there's a legitimate possibility that Tom Brady and the Buccaneers could repeat next year and win 8, because that's how loaded the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are. So I would say that, Brady last night put this Mahomes-Brady GOAT argument conversation to rest for the time being. And me personally, I don't really see Mahomes eclipsing Brady, even though Mahomes is like the best arm talent I've ever seen. He has such great athleticism. I just don't see it because I don't think Mahomes will be able to get to 7 Super Bowls or even more and eclipse Brady for that much, given how Kansas City, with all their they have a bunch of roster crunches coming up, with players like Eric Fisher, players like Mitchell Schwartz, players like Frank Clark on the defensive end, Tyrann Mathieu. They have a lot of these guys, contracts that are going to expire in the next 3 to 4 years. These guys aren't going to be around when the time Mahomes' contract expires. And we saw it last night. When Mahomes doesn't have an offensive line, an adequate offensive line to protect him, the guy looks vulnerable, and we saw that last night. And I'm really worried because we don't know how next season. We don't know how Eric Fisher is going to be coming off a torn Achilles. I think John and Sammy can agree with me on this. Torn Achilles is one of the hardest injuries to come back from, especially for an offensive lineman. And Mitchell Schwartz, he's got a back injury. And normally when a football player has a back injury, that is never good for that player. So we'll see how the Chiefs are, in the coming seasons. But I'm really worried about that offensive line and some of the skills players around Mahomes. But going into our third topic of the night, Tom Brady wins his 7th Super Bowl. He wins 1 without Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. So I got to ask you guys this question. Did Tom Brady officially end the debate last night about who needed who most between him and Bill Belichick? John, I'll get your thoughts on this first.
Absolutely. He went to another team with a new head coach and won the Super Bowl. So he doesn't need Bill Belichick. If anything, Bill Belichick needs him. Because you saw what happened to the Patriots this year. They didn't even make the playoffs. They weren't in the playoff picture. And their quarterback was a washed-up Cam Newton, whose time is up in the NFL. You know, he wasn't the same dynamic, explosive quarterback that we saw lead the Carolina Panthers to Super Bowl before they got smashed against the Denver Broncos. So, yes, and, you know, Bill Belichick, I'm sure, realizes that he had the greatest quarterback of all time on his side at one point. But I guess those two couldn't work out, couldn't coexist any much longer because there was apparently a rift between the two. And you know, Tom Brady wasn't done, but he was done in New England. And I think he needed a change of scenery, and I think he needed to, you know, break his relationship off with Bill Belichick. But absolutely, Bill Belichick, I think in this upcoming draft, is going to have to look for a new quarterback. He's going to have to start scouting for a new quarterback because Tom Brady is not easy to replace. Actually, you can't replace a lot of Tom Brady. He's the greatest ever now. He made that argument last night. You know, he made it known. You know, the whole world knows now that he's the greatest of all time, and Bill Belichick doesn't have that. And now in the post Brady era, Bill Belichick knows that he needs to find a new franchise quarterback. He's not going to get another Tom Brady because they only want Tom Brady. But he's going to have to replace him with someone who resembles his talent. Maybe not necessarily.
Well said, John. Sammy, what do you think about this question? You know, I brought this up, I think it was after the NFC Championship when the Buccaneers defeated the Green Bay Packers to reach the Super Bowl. I said that Tom Brady had already won the divorce against Bill Belichick. He ended that argument as that Belichick needed Brady more than Brady needed Bill Belichick. But what's your thoughts? Did Tom Brady officially end that debate last night about who needed who more between him and Bill Belichick with getting his 7th Lombardi trophy?
Well, you know, Belichick does have 8 of those things. He does have 8 rings versus Tom Brady 7. But I think, you know, they're great on their own matter. I think it proved to people that Tom Brady is not a system quarterback. A lot of people had the mindset that Tom Brady couldn't perform outside of Belichick's system. Well, when really the system was Tom Brady's system. And he took that system out to Tampa Bay, and it mellowed with Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich's game plan. And Bruce Arians, though, by the way, let them do a fantastic job of stepping back from offensive play calling, basically. Saying basically, Leftwich and Brady, you guys call the plays on offense, and I'll help out a little bit on defense. You know, him stepping back and doing that was beautiful because it ended up working out for a Super Bowl. But as far as Tom Brady versus Belichick, it obviously shows that Tom Brady did not need Belichick to be successful. And as far as Belichick needing Tom Brady to be successful, he was an accomplished defensive coordinator before getting Tom Brady. Here he had 2 rings. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell if he can succeed without Brady and with a future franchise quarterback, which he has no franchise quarterback right now. So we'll see. Time will tell on that one.
Yeah, I totally agree with you two on this. I think that Tom Brady ended this after the NFC Championship when he went to a Super Bowl without Bill Belichick. I mean, the Patriots, they missed the playoffs this season. Cam Newton looked absolutely atrocious in the Patriots offensive system. And meanwhile, Tom Brady, he goes to a new team with no OTAs, or a limited training camp and limited practices as well because of the coronavirus pandemic. He goes into this new situation with Tampa Bay with guys that he hasn't worked with in the past, with Godwin, with Evans, and he goes in there and he takes them to 11 wins. They make the playoffs for the first time since, I believe, 2007. And then Tampa Bay, they go on a run. They go to Washington. They beat the Washington football team in Washington. Then they go into New Orleans. They beat Drew Brees. And then they go into Green Bay and then beat Aaron Rodgers. And then now to top it all off, they win the Super Bowl at their own home stadium. Tom Brady last night proved two things to me. He proved that he didn't need Belichick to be great, like Sammy mentioned. And also, he proved that he is not a system quarterback. I know a lot of people said, oh, yeah, Tom Brady, he can only win with the Belichick Patriot system. Well, that Super Bowl championship proved to you right there that Tom Brady did not need that Patriot system to be successful. But going into our comments section to see what our fans have to say about this matter, Casey says, Patrick Mahomes will get plenty of chances to win again, and he may not catch Brady, but I think he can win a couple of more titles. Edward Lee says he thinks that Mahomes will get a chance to surpass Brady for the championship. James Gonzalez says Mahomes and the Chiefs definitely have the chance to get back and win more rings. The question is, how do they come back from the loss on Sunday? That's a very valid question, James, considering the fact that the Chiefs have major injuries concerns with Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, and also they have a bunch of free agents coming up as well. Casey King says, I'm also happy for former USC Trojans running back Ronald Jones. Glad to see him get a ring. James Gonzalez says, remember how Damian Williams opted out of the season? Wonder how much Williams would have even mattered in this football game. That's actually an excellent question, James. James also says Williams was Super Bowl MVP the last time around, if you recall. James also says Brady ended that argument when the Patriots missed the playoffs last season. And Casey says Tom Brady won the debate for now. He did just fine without Belichick. You look at Belichick's record with the Browns, it wasn't good. That's exactly a great point, James. Belichick, losing record without Brady. Brady comes along, becomes one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. Brady leaves and, back to a losing record and missing the playoffs. We'll see how Belichick can, turn it around and respond in New England in the coming, draft, free agency, and the coming season. But to go to the coach on the other sideline, and that is Bruce Arians. Gents, Bruce Arians has been coaching for a long, long time in the NFL, a very great, accomplished offensive mind in the game of football. With this Super Bowl win, is Bruce Arians now bound for the Hall of Fame? John Mathis, I'm going to start with you on this. What do you think? Is Bruce Arians bound for Canton after this Super Bowl 55 victory?
He doesn't have enough on his resume. He still has a little ways to go. He has to convince me that he can win multiple Super Bowls, and I think he can now with Tom Brady. They can run it back next year. But does he earn his spot in Canton, Ohio? That's a tough one. Because he was part of the inspirational story in Indianapolis when he took over that Colts team, which, helped him get a coaching job later on. But he's done an incredible job building the foundation everywhere that he's been. He was part of an Arizona team with the Cardinals. It just didn't work out there, but you saw progressive leadership there when he was coaching at Arizona. I believe he did get Arizona to the playoffs when he was there. But with Tampa Bay, he not only get the team to the playoffs, but he guides the team to the Super Bowl and win it. So that's a remarkable achievement for any coach, and not every coach can do that. But what he has shown is great leadership. He believes in his players, and his players obviously buys into his system. They playing for coach. And, earlier in the year, he showed tough love. People made a big deal about it when he criticized Tom Brady. And that was a big story that created a headline. Everyone was talking about it. But he was only showing Brady tough love. And, that's what I like about him as well. He's very straightforward. He's very honest, very to the point, down to earth guy. But he doesn't hold back. He tells you what's on his mind and how he feels. But I think he is a Hall of Fame coach. He would have to win a few more titles first, and he would have to show me that he can coach without Tom Brady.
Well, John, I disagree on this. I think that Bruce Arians, with this championship, I think he barely gets in the Hall of Fame. If he wins one more title, he's for sure a Hall of Famer. But I got to say that I think that he is a Hall of Famer because if you look at his record, he is 67-44 as an NFL head coach. 5 years with Arizona, he was 49-30, turned around that franchise completely. And then 2 years with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, before Bruce Arians got there, they hadn't made the playoffs in a very, very long time. They have been one of the most dysfunctional franchises in all of football, and for him to turn that around is really impressive. I know they have Tom Brady, but still, Bruce Arians is a big part of that massive turnaround in Tampa Bay. The guy has won 2 Super Bowls as an offensive coordinator with Pittsburgh, now one as an NFL head coach, a very respected offensive mind. Worked with so many great quarterbacks from Peyton Manning, Carson Palmer, Ben Roethlisberger, Andrew Luck, and now Tom Brady. I think he gets into Canton for what he did as an offensive offensive coordinator, and now with the Super Bowl, I think the Super Bowl puts him over the top. But if BA can win one more Super Bowl, I think that really cements his case, for the Hall of Fame. But Sammy, what do you think about this? Do you think that Bruce Arians, after winning the Super Bowl, is he bound for Canton?
I think if Tom Flores, who just got inducted to the Hall of Fame, is in the Hall of Fame, then Bruce Arians done more than enough to be in the Hall of Fame. Bruce Arians, everywhere he's been at, he's done an excellent job at. When he was in Indianapolis twice, he did a good job of developing Peyton Manning. I mean, he threw a lot of interceptions, but Peyton Manning was obviously growing as a quarterback. And then when he went to Pittsburgh, he doesn't get any of the credit. Pittsburgh was booing him at his last Super Bowl parade, and that's just how it just says a lot about our fan base. He was getting booed at a Super Bowl parade, and eventually he would leave. A few years later, they wouldn't renew his contract, and he goes out, and that's when he goes out to Indianapolis for a second stint, takes over Chuck Pagano, goes 9-3 as the Indianapolis interim head coach. Then he goes to Cardinals. He gets his first full-time coaching gig. He wins Coach of the Year, AP Coach of the Year there, and leads them actually to 2 playoff appearances, 1 to an NFC Championship game. And then Carson Palmer gets hurt. Then the Cardinals start falling apart, and then he gets part of the blame for it. I don't know why, but he does get part of the blame for that fallout. Then he goes to Tampa Bay, and Jameis Winston had 30 touchdowns and about 5,000 something yards, led the league in passing yards. Bruce Arians somehow is able to land Tom Brady, and Tom Brady brings in Leonard Fournette, brings in Antonio Brown, brings in Gronkowski, because those guys wouldn't have been in Tampa Bay if Tom Brady didn't go. Tom Brady, once he signed with Tampa Bay, players were calling Tampa Bay to try to make it onto the team, okay? Ndamukong Suh as well. Tampa Bay could not sign anybody. No one wanted to go to Tampa Bay until Tom Brady went there. So I think, if he does go even to another NFC Championship game or to another Super Bowl in any time of his career, I think that would put him over the edge as a immediate Hall of Fame head coach. But as of right now, if he retired today, it would be a waiting list for him.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Sammy. I think that right now Bruce Arians does retire, which I really don't see. I do think that he would have to wait a while to get in, but I think he would eventually get in. But let's see what our fans have to say about this topic. James Gonzalez says, so happy for Bruce Arians, long road to get to the top. James Gonzalez also says that Bruce seems like a head coach that players like playing for. Totally agree with you there. Fellas, before we get into, a topic that is not related to the Super Bowl, we do have an interesting question from Ishmael Lancaster, and he says he wants to ask us, with how stacked that these 2 teams are for the foreseeable future, do you guys think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Kansas City Chiefs could be the football version of the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors. Sammy, I'm going to start with you on this. What do you think about Ishmael's question?
I was thinking about that earlier, actually, today. Definitely not, for the fact that Tom Brady's 43 years old, and the fact that the Chiefs are not that stacked. You think about the teams that have won the Super Bowl in the past, it has not always been the best team. The NFL is one of the few leagues that the best team doesn't always win it. I'd say NHL is the other one. The NBA, the best two teams make it because it's a 7-game series. The NFL, it's a 1 game, you go home. So if Patrick Mahomes has an off day, guess what? KC's going home, okay? No matter if they were the better team all year or not. And, that's how it makes for good TV because, you do get those 9-7 Giants teams beating the 16-0 Patriots. You get those 6-seed Steelers in 2006 making the Super Bowl run and winning giving Bettis his ring in Detroit, So I don't think that I don't think the Bucks and KC will make it to that many Super Bowls in a row. I think maybe next year they could match up. And I don't think the Chiefs are really that deep if you really look at the depth of their roster. They really aren't that deep.
Excellent point, Sammy. John, what do you think of this? Do you think that Bucks and Chiefs could be like the football version of the Cavs Warriors, where we see them like time and time again in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, the Chiefs are not that deep defensively. They have a lot of star power offensively, but then they have a lot of guys that's going to be testing the market in a few years. I just don't see this holding up. I don't see any teams really having a chance to make a dynastic run unless they rebuild around what they have now. And Tom Brady's 43 years old. He's only going to play a few more years. And also, guys, it's rare to see teams make it to back-to-back Super Bowls in the NFL. You don't see that. You see that more in basketball. That's common in basketball to see teams repeat running back constantly. You don't see that too much in football. Usually in every Super Bowl, you get a set of 2 different teams that you didn't see here before. So, it's hard to run it back in football. It's possible. The Cowboys did it in the early 90s. The 49ers did it in the 80s. You have teams that ran it back, but it's not every day that you see that in the NFL. Basketball is different. The Cavs, they have LeBron James, who dominated in the weak Eastern Conference. So every year they was always at the top. And then same for the Warriors. The Warriors just had too much superstar power. They had Splash Brothers in the backcourt, and they were able to come out of the West each year. But basketball and football are 2 different sports. And when you look at all the scenarios here, that just seems like that's not going to happen in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I agree with you guys on this. I don't think that it will be the Bucks and the Warriors. I could see the Chiefs and the Bucks matching up next season because, both teams are going to be really stacked next season with the Bucks, with Brady coming back. Hopefully Chris Godwin comes back. I'm pretty sure he will come back, though. Shaq Barrett, he probably will get franchise tagged again. But a lot of the pieces are still there. So I think they could match up again in the Super Bowl. But if you're asking me, if they can match up, three out of 5 years, 3 out of the next 5 years, I highly doubt it because by that time, Tom Brady will be 48, 50 years old. I don't think he will be playing until he's 48 or 50. He might, but I doubt it. And also, football is a game where a lot of the unexpected are really thrown at you. Injuries. Look at what happened with the Niners. Who expected the Niners would be ravaged by injuries this year? I don't think anybody expected the 49ers to be ravaged with injuries. So you never know. Each year is different in the NFL. And, for the Chiefs, I could see the Chiefs coming out of the AFC for the next 3-4 years because the AFC is kind of weak. You have the Bills, but I don't really see the Bills toppling the Kansas City Chiefs. But if you look at the NFC is extremely deep. You look at the Packers, Aaron Rodgers is going to come back next season. Green Bay is going to be a powerhouse next season in the NFC. Then you got the Bucks. Then you got John's LA Rams, who just got Matthew Stafford, and they have that, stacked defense. And then you got, Seattle with Russell Wilson. We know what they're about. San Francisco, I think they're going to come back and get close to that, Super Bowl team that they were. Maybe not go back to the Super Bowl, but I definitely see them making the playoffs next season. So a lot of unknown factors for next season, NFC being so deep, and also with, free agency, we don't know what's going to happen, and also with injuries. So I doubt it, but I could definitely see these two teams matching up next year back in February for the Super Bowl. But fellas, let's go to our final NFL topic for the night, and it's not Super Bowl related. And that question is, the Philadelphia Eagles, they really want to trade quarterback Carson Wentz. And according to reports, the Eagles are demanding a Matthew Stafford-like trade package from potential suitors to land Carson Wentz, which means 2 first-round picks and an impact player, either on offense or defense. John, I'm going to start with you on this. What do you think of the Eagles' wishes of a Matthew Stafford-like trade package for Carson Wentz? Do you think the Eagles' wishes are too much to try to trade Carson Wentz away?
Well, if the Rams in Detroit made it happen, then the Philadelphia Eagles feel the same way. They are expected to trade Carson Wentz in the coming days, so to say. But it'll be interesting to see where the Eagles send him to. But after the Matthew Stafford package, I think this now seems realistic. It's bound to happen at some point. The Eagles are willing to move on from him. There's other teams that would love to have Carson Wentz. Maybe he needs to change the scenery. The Eagles will, I guess, continue to insist to other teams that they would be happy, to bring Wentz back, but to Philadelphia. But I don't know at this point. It just seems like the Eagles want to go in a new direction, and they would kind of package what you call a Godfather deal to make something happen. Let me ask you this question, guys. Do you think that they would swap Deshaun Watson for Carson Wentz, or do you think that won't happen? What do you guys think?
Sammy, what do you think about this, man? The Eagles, they're asking for 2 first-round picks and an impact player either on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball.
They're asking for a lot.
Yeah, they are asking for a lot, John. Do you believe that the Eagles, or do you think that the Eagles' wishes are a pipe dream for Carson Wentz?
I don't know if they're a pipe dream, but if I'm the owner of a team and I give up 2 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick or a 2nd-round pick, I forget what it was, for Carson Wentz. Now, you have to keep in mind, the owner wanted to keep Carson Wentz. You know why? Because he's getting paid $30 million a year. He was a 2nd overall pick, and the fact that his own team is giving up on him and he has a contract attached to him like that, if I'm an owner and my GM gives him 3 top 100 picks, he's getting fired that day. He makes that trade. There's no reason why anybody in the right mind would make that trade. Realistically speaking, the Eagles would be lucky to get a top 100 pick out of Carson Wentz. He'd be lucky to get a 3rd-round pick off of him, not because of poor performance, but mostly because of salary. It's ridiculous. I think honestly the best suitor right now for him would be the Colts, and it'd be for a 3rd rounder is what it would be. 3rd round for Carson Wentz, straight up. That's how I would do. But with what it sounds like from the Eagles camp, that's unrealistic.
Yeah, it would be hard to see them move him. Even though I wouldn't what am I looking to say? I mean, you never know, though. It could happen. You know, we're seeing crazy stuff happen in today's NFL. But, I mean, you know what? Like Sammy said, that's just too much. And you paid a lot of money. And, you know, you might as well see what you still have him, what you have in him. And now he's going to be under a new coaching regime. So, I mean, you know what? But I wouldn't be surprised if they did move him. Not at all.
Yeah, I agree with you, fellas. If my GM, forget even like making the deal, if my GM even brought that deal to me, if I'm the owner of a football team, I would fire him right on the spot. That's how ludicrous that deal sounds. I mean, my gosh, really, if you give up 2 first-round picks and an impact player, you know, either on offense or defense, that's just ridiculous. For a guy like Carson Wentz, who has a massive salary or massive contract that you're going to be on the books for. Also, you know, he hasn't been able to stay healthy throughout his entire career. I think Carson Wentz, if correct me if I'm wrong, you know, Carson Wentz, he's only played 16 games twice in his career in the NFL. You know, this season, obviously he got benched for Jalen Hurts, but still, he played 16 games his rookie year. 2017, played only 13 games. 2018, 11 games, got hurt with a torn ACL. Then 2019 played 16 games, led them to the playoffs, 9-7, and then this year 12 games, you know, was 3-8 and really regressed this season. I would not do it if I'm any team in the NFL. You know, I would be hard pressed to even give up a first-round pick, let alone 2 first-round picks and an impact player to get Carson Wentz. I think the Eagles' demands are absolutely ludicrous, but going to our comment section, James Gonzalez says the Eagles are tripping. They're asking too much for Carson Wentz. And James also says Wentz is not even worth a second-round pick. I don't know if this is true or not, fellas, but I did hear a report over the weekend that the Bears were reportedly offering 2 first-round picks and Nick Foles and Tariq Cohen, who's coming off a torn ACL, for Carson Wentz. Callan, if you are listening, my friend, if your Bears do this, you might want to go find another team because that deal is absolutely ludicrous for your Bears. But, fellas, going into our final topic of the night, and it comes in the NBA, the New York Knicks make a move on Sunday. They acquire Derrick Rose from the Detroit Pistons for Dennis Smith Jr., and I believe a first-round pick as well. John, what was your thoughts on the Knicks making the deal to reunite Derrick Rose with his former coach, Tom Thibodeau?
You know, it's an interesting one. And, you know, he has a great relationship with Tom Thibodeau, so maybe that's why this move happened. Maybe that's why he's back in New York. But you know what? Derrick Rose should have had a better career than this. But once he got injured, he was never the same. You know, we didn't see the career, the real career of Derrick Rose. We didn't see who Derrick Rose could have been and would have been. And it's just so unfortunate. But to see him back in New York with his old coach, it's a reunion. And it's probably good to see. He's a veteran guard now. But I don't know how this really changes the Knicks moving forward. You know, I don't know how it changes the Knicks moving forward. You know, yes, he brings a veteran presence. Yes, he's been his former coach, a guy that helped with his development until he got injured. A guy who knows him inside out, knows how to use him. You know, knows what he's going to get out of him and everything like that. He can probably get the best out of him. But again, I just don't know what this does for the Knicks.
Yeah, I agree with you. For me, when I look at this move, you know, I'm glad that the Knicks made the move because it shows that the Knicks are wanting to be competitive and try to make a run for the playoffs. The Knicks right now are 11-14. They're in the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. And the Eastern Conference, you know, it's going to the final 2 seeds, I believe, are going to be between the Cavs, the Hornets, maybe the Bulls, if they can, you know, turn that ship around. The Hawks as well. I think the Pacers could drop. So I think the Knicks are in that, you know, mix with the bunch of those teams for that final two seeds in the Eastern Conference. So, I mean, it's good to see the Knicks try to go for it. Do I think that this move is a game changer? No. But Derrick Rose, he's having a solid season. He's playing, he's averaging 14.2 points per game, shooting 42.9% from the field, 33% from three, averaging 4.2 assists, 1.2 steals per game. I mean, he's a good defensive guard. He brings a veteran presence that the Knicks need to mentor their young guard. So, I mean, that's all this move is. But it's good to see that the New York Knicks are actually trying to compete and trying to get that final 8 spot in the Eastern Conference. But Sammy, I'm going to go to you on this. What do you make of the Knicks landing Derrick Rose in a deal with the Detroit Pistons?
Well, it was DSJ and a second-round pick, Charlotte's second-round pick. And DSJ, he was having a tough time at New York getting his place. New York earlier this month has asked him to drop down to the G League. That's why mostly he's gotten traded. But as for Derrick Rose and his aspect, I don't know where he gets out of this, because he's going to a team where their top player is R.J. Barrett. R.J. Barrett is a small forward who's not that good at shooting the ball from outside the three, and he likes to be ball dominant. So now you have two ball dominant players that are going to be on the same court at one time. I don't know. And they neither of them can shoot, because Derrick Rose, he's not a off the ball type of player. He likes the ball, and he cannot shoot that well. So I don't know as far as basketball moves, I don't understand where they were planning on what they were planning on doing. I'm kind of disappointed in Miami, because they're hanging around with, I think, 8-14 record if I'm right. And they're really down the standings. They really needed to make a big move, possibly for some energy at least, to reunite Jimmy Butler and Derrick Rose. I would love to see that. But as for the Knicks, they're in contention right now for possibly making the playoffs for the first time in a very long time. I think 5-6 years, maybe longer than that actually. Now I'm thinking about it. But they're in the contention for making the playoffs for a long time. I see why they make the move, to get veteran experience off the bench and to get some scoring of some sorts. But if you put RJ, like I said, you put RJ Barrett and Derrick Rose on the same court together, you have two ball dominant guards that do not shoot well. So I don't understand where the floor spacing would be coming from. So that befuddles me, to be honest.
Yeah, excellent point, Sammy. I really don't know how R.J. Barrett and Derrick Rose would be able to coexist. By the way, before we get into final thoughts, I just want to make a correction. It was actually a second-round pick, 2021 second-round pick the Knicks gave up, not a 2021 first-round pick. But going into our comment section, James Gonzalez says, it's good for Derrick Rose, but I really hope Dennis Smith Jr. can turn his career around. James also says veteran leadership was needed on the Knicks. James adds on to his point. He says the Knicks do need to try to trade for some three-point shooters if they want to make the playoffs. The team that needs to trade for three-point shooters is Sammy's Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, the Cavaliers, not trying to go off the topic, but the Cavaliers, they are one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the NBA. I think they are playing right now kind of an 80s, 90s style of basketball. And if you want to make the playoffs and, the next month that they have, it's a brutal stretch that they have. And if you want to win some of those games, you're gonna have to be able to shoot some threes if you want to win those games. So the Cavs got to try to trade for some three-point shooting. But fellas, it's been a phenomenal show. Go ahead.
Dallas Mavericks too. They have one of the Dallas Mavericks have one of the worst three-point shooting teams as well.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that. We talked about the Mavericks on No BS and about Kristaps Porzingis and his defensive woes that's been happening this season. So hopefully the Mavericks turn around.
And before we go, doesn't Luka look a bit out of shape to you? Doesn't he look a little bit out of game shape? To me, he does a little bit.
For me, and Sammy, you can chime in on this as well. He does. The thing about Luka that I'm kind of getting annoyed by is that he's been whining a lot. Like, I don't know, every single game I see him like not drive to the basket and not get foul calls. He's just always whining to the refs instead of going back on defense and try to opposing side. But Sammy, before we go into final thoughts, what do you have to say about either my Cavs point or what John had to say about Luka?
Well, I think the Cavs need one more year before they go for three-point shooters. They have Jared Allen, Andre Drummond. They have about a handful of actual centers. So they're stuck in the 90s and the 80s. But as far as Luka Doncic, I think that I honestly I'm befuddled by his drop off of play this year because it makes no sense. He does seem a little bit slower, but at the same time, there's no excuse because basketball season ended 3 or 4 months ago. It was July when the last season ended. So there's no excuse for him to be out of shape or being slow at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. And James Gonzalez says the Cavs, they need to try to trade Drummond for those shooters. James, I don't think you can really get much for Drummond at this point because he's making a ton of money, and I don't think teams would want to take on that salary. So I think the best case for Drummond is the Cavs buy him out and let him go to a team that is contending right now for a championship. And also, James says Luka is just trying to do everything, and whining way too much. But fellas, it's been a tremendous show, but it's time to head into tonight's final thoughts. All right, what a great show here in the aftermath of the Super Bowl. But fellas, Sammy, I'm going to start with you on this. What is your final thoughts for tonight's show?
My final thoughts, it's mostly going back to the Super Bowl is I don't know. I'm still speechless about that Super Bowl, and I can see we all are, and it blows my mind, That just blows my mind seeing that Super Bowl the way it happened.
John, how about you? What are your final thoughts for tonight's show?
This is non-sports related. My fiance got me pulling my hair out now. The hair that I do have because she's on this Jane the Virgin thing, and she has me watching every single episode. Help me. Jane the Virgin. Oh, I'm so sick of that show. But hey, I do it for her. It's all in love. Whatever she wants to watch, I'm down to watch it. But I think that Super Bowl was one of the most pedestrian Super Bowls I've seen in a long time. But again, you could take something away from it, and what you can take away from it is greatness. And we all have it within us to be great. Tom Brady shows us that. Kobe Bryant showed us that. Michael Jordan showed us that. And what makes these guys stand out the most is their work ethic. No one talks about the effort and the hard work that they put into, their craft. They're dedicated to their craft, and that's what makes us great. So whatever you guys want to pursue in life, just stand out from the rest of the crowd and work hard and continue to stay on course with it and never give up on your dreams. And just be patient. I know that's easy for me to say because you guys know me. You guys know me really well that I'm a very patient person. And sometimes I'm in a rush to get something overnight. But in reality, nothing comes overnight. We have to put in the work. We have to constantly grind. And we have to continue to work hard. And I know it gets very frustrating because I'm testing to that. It gets frustrating. It gets frustrating when you get rejected, when you get turned down, when you feel like you have it in your hands, you have what you want in your possession, and someone comes along and they just take it away from you, or you just end up not getting a job or not getting that dream job that you've always wanted, and it's tough, but you can't let that get down. It's how you respond, and that's always the great thing is that you can respond and just continue to and keep pushing, and greatness is within.
Excellent final thoughts, John. For me, before I get into my final thoughts for tonight's show, I want to just take some time and thank our viewers for tuning in tonight. I want to thank James, Edward, Ishmael, Casey, as well as Joseph. We had Jansen Harris tune in tonight. I think first-time viewer. Welcome onto Wild Sports Talk, man. Appreciate you for giving us a watch and a listen tonight. Hopefully, you come back and tune in. Let's see. Trying to see. And Brian Snow as well, who we're going to definitely try to get on again, maybe sometime this week to get his thoughts on the Super Bowl. I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. Thank you guys so much for the love and the support that you guys showed us. But, fellas, my final thoughts is what a great show. What a great Super Bowl that we had. Congratulations to Tom Brady and Bruce Arians and the Buccaneers on winning that Super Bowl and keeping the Lombardi Trophy in Tampa Bay. And now, fellas, the fun begins. The free agency frenzy, the quarterback carousel begins, and I'm really hoping that my 49ers can land one of the top quarterbacks this year, whether it's in the draft or whether it's in free agency or in the trade market. So hopefully something happens in the next couple or the next month or in the coming weeks. But that's my final thoughts for tonight's show. Anyways, guys, it's been a terrific show tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you guys back on here for Wild Sports Talk on Wednesday night. Have a good night, everyone.
No stress I've been through.